Hello, Year 7. Back to some more poetry that's related specifically to identity. Before we get on to today's poem, which is November by Simon Armitage, a little bit more poignant than the last two, but there's nothing wrong with that. What do you think of when you see these images of people in a care home? Have you had experience of having to visit someone in a care home? And if you did, how did it make you feel? And if you haven't, how do you think it might make you feel? So just 5 minutes on that, and then we'll go on to the next slide. Today, as ever, you're going to need a pen, your exercise book, some paper, coloured pens and pencils, a copy of the poem which I will attach to Classcharts, and don't forget as usual to stop the video or the audio or wherever it is you're looking at it or listening to it whenever you need to do the tasks. So these are some of the things that you might have felt about the images of a care home. You might have felt sad or upset, guilt, or you might have been worried. I think this is something that younger people going to care homes feel rather than the old people. I'm pretty certain my experience of my parents is that they're not that unhappy about getting old. It's a question of how you've lived your life, isn't it? Okay, our learning objective today is to read and analyse the poem November. So your title is November. Here's just a few things that you might want to know what they mean to make the poem make a bit more sense. Trinkets are small, worthless objects, often jewellery. Pair, if you pair something spelt like that, you're cutting or trimming it. Twilight is fading light after sunset, and twilight zone is a kind of run down. Doesn't have to be an industrial area, but in the context of this poem, it is. The phrase can also be used for a place which is strange or even threatening. Here it is, November. We walked to the ward from the badly parked car with your grandma taking 4 short steps to R2. We have brought her here to die and we know it. You check her towel, soap and family trinkets, pare her nails, parcel her in the rough blankets and she sinks down into her incontinence. It is time, John. In their pasty bloodless smiles, in their slack breasts, their stunned brains and their boldness, and in us, John, we are almost these monsters. You're shattered. You give me the keys and I drive through the twilight zone, past the famous station to your house to numb ourselves with alcohol. Inside we feel the terror of the dusk begin. Outside we watch the evening fading again and we let it happen. We can say nothing. Sometimes the sun spangles and we feel alive. One thing we have to get, John, out of this life. So this poem is essentially not about the old person who's gone into the home. It's not about them at all. It's got nothing to do with their voice, and it's everything to do with the guilt that this person feels about putting their grandparent in there. So it's to do with guilt rather than sadness, I think. Perfectly natural guilt. Just comes with the territory, that sort of guilt. Put these cards in order of what happens in the poem. You can either print it out from the PDF and write on it, or just write them out. I would write them out. What are your initial thoughts about the poem? What's it about? What happens? What feelings are shown? You've got 10 minutes for that. Here we are. There's the cards in order. It is November. It's almost the end of the year. That's quite significant, isn't it? Because that's sort of parallel with the old lady's time in her life. The speaker of the poem and his friend John take John's grandmother into hospital. She's very old and weak. They know they are taking her there to die. Guilt. They make sure that once she has got all she needs, things like towels, soap and some family items, they cut her nails and try to make her comfortable. That shows caring. The speaker and John are upset and scared by the sight of the old people in the ward. The faces of the old people are pale and their bodies are very weak. They can't think clearly and they are losing their hair. The speaker calls them monsters. John is very tired and so the speaker drives him home. They realise that they will also grow old and be like the people in the ward. When they get home, they drink alcohol to try and forget what they've seen, so they're worried. Now look through the pictures and pick one for each stanza. Right beside each picture and explain why you chose it. I will attach the PDF for that. E.g., I chose this picture because I think John is torn up inside about what he's doing. Just 10 minutes for that. Read through the poem again, this time underline all the emotive words that make you feel an emotion. Choose your top 3, the 2 which you think are most powerful, and explain why you have chosen these words. So put the word and then explain what it made you feel in the context of this poem. For example, die is emotive because it makes you feel worried or sad, also gives you the idea of inevitability, it shows their guilt. I've highlighted some bits there, some quotes there, and I've annotated them on the right, and I want you to add these annotations to your work. That's going to take you 5 minutes. Okay, this poem has a lot of imagery. Look at the imagery I've identified here. Twilight zone, terror of the dusk and evening. What language technique is used? It's a metaphor for death and pathetic fallacy. What is the effect of this imagery? It implies the ending of life and the fear they feel and this happening to them, that should say. So find another image of your own and identify a language technique and explain the effect. Well done for today. Difficult poem to read, I think, but worth reading. Had some great poetic techniques in there. What I'd like you to upload to Classcharts is your annotated poems, please, for me to have a look at. And you know, I really do enjoy reading them actually and seeing what your own ideas are on these poems. So upload those to me so I can give all the relevant achievement points. And I'll speak to you next time. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.